it's very expensive to have muscle. So
Yes.
if you make it seem like you don't need any, the body will get rid of it. It's too expensive for the body to have. But if you show your body that you need it in order to survive, or you need it to quickly run and grab that animal and kill that animal, or you need to be able to lift something, the body will compensate, and then it will hold on to the muscle. And as I said, it burns through a lot just having it.
And what's amazing to me, and there's a lot of studies to this effect, that when you eat a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, it's actually very muscle sparing. Like I can even tell you at the times that I've really focused on strength training, which right now I'm not, but I want to soon. I've got to shore up some injuries in my low body before I push too hard. But when I have pushed, I have built a certain amount of muscle that even when I stopped doing it, as long as I kept eating in a ketogenic state or in a carnivore state, that muscle stayed. It didn't go away. Now, maybe it got softer, but it didn't. The strength is still there. It's amazing.
Yes. One thing that's very cool about, obviously carnivore, but also keto, hopefully, is that people, if they're cutting back on carbohydrates, they do tend to hopefully up their protein. And
Yes.
your body, I think we have felt for a long time that we need a lot less protein than we actually need. We do need a lot of protein, and there's a lot happening in the body every day we do recycle a lot of our proteins in our body, but we also need a lot from our diet. And so I think one thing that helps, and the reason why we tend to hold on to a bit more muscle when we're doing these diets is because we're eating more protein, and our bodies are probably saying, yes, finally I'm getting the protein that I've always wanted. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
Well, and what's funny too is people think protein is this one monolithic, just protein. And protein is actually the breakdown of the amino acids. And so you can get protein from grains, or you can get protein from an animal food, and the animal food is far superior because it has all the complete profile of all the amino acids, whereas the grains and other plant sources, you have to eat a little bit of this here, a little bit of that there, and it's hard. It's
Absolutely.
very difficult to get it in. Can you explain the purpose of the complete proteins and what happens when you get adequate amounts of protein from plant sources, but they're deficient in all the amino acids?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we've got 20 amino acids. 9 of them are essential, which basically means that 9 of them we need to get from our diet, and we can't make them ourselves. One of them that's particularly interesting that I've been doing a lot of research on is leucine. And
Yes.
leucine is not very high in non-animal foods. We can only really get it from animal foods. And leucine is actually needed in order to grow muscle. It literally comes down to that. Leucine, unless you hit a leucine threshold when you eat protein, you, you, you can recycle proteins, but you can't really stimulate mTOR, which is a growth promoting factor.
Right.
And I think in this space, people often get a bit worried about mTOR, and therefore maybe having too much leucine, because as I said, it's a growth factor. And people think that if we have too much protein, stimulate mTOR too much, then, it might result in cancer or anything that is excess cellular growth. But in
Right.
fact, I from what I can see, we really do need mTOR, because not only do we need it if we're going to build muscle, we need periods in the day where we're anabolic, which is growing,
Yeah.
and parts of the day where we're catabolic.
Yes.
And when you're doing a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, naturally that just tends to happen because you're not eating all day. You
Yeah.
tend to be able to do a little bit more fasting, and so you're having periods where your mTOR and your leucine are being spiked, so you're able to grow. You're able to grow some muscle, you're able to renew your cells. And then you'll have periods where everything drops back down, insulin drops back down, and you're catabolic again, and then you're getting rid of old things. So, back to your question, leucine is particularly important. As I said, you can only get that from animal products, and that's why it's so important to not rely on just vegetarian proteins.
Are you tired of playing the mask game? Me too. That's why I wanted to tell you about the Unmask. This is a breathable, completely breathable. It covers, you can't even see that it's breathable, but it's breathable. Whether you're going on a plane, having to go into a store and wearing this thing, playthemaskgame.com is how you can get this mask. They come in all kinds of colors and everything. In fact, right there, you can see right through it what it is, but when you're wearing it, it does not look like it's anything different, but it's breathable, baby. Playthemaskgame.com.
There seems to be this really big move worldwide right now to get us away from red meat, away from animal-based foods. It's not new. I've been around 17 years talking about this stuff. They were poo-pooing on all that 17 years ago. I remember the World Health Organization would come out, oh, well, all this red meat is killing the planet, and we have to learn to live on plant-based foods. And then this plant-based meat stuff started coming out. I'm sure they're popular there in Australia, just like they are here. And it just seems like they're hell-bent to get us to eat not food and take away our real food from us.
It's extremely sad. And not only with eating those foods are we getting so many awful additives and things that are not great for our body, but we're also not getting the nutrients that we need that meat can so easily provide for us. And on top of it as well, for the environment, it's terrible. It's terrible for the environment. You know, we need cows to be on the grass and breaking down the grass. And I mean, I'll admit I'm not amazing at everything to do with the sustainability, but really I know for a fact that's not good for the environment.
Right. I've seen some videos and I've heard TED Talks from people like Alan Savory. If you haven't seen his TED Talk, it's amazing on this topic of sustainability. It would take like barren areas of land that they just gave up on. The nutrients were all gone. It was just like a desert. It was just so barren. And all they did was put ruminant animals onto that land. And wouldn't you know, within a few months, green, luscious grass started to grow because the manure would get in the ground and nourish the ground. Like, cows have gotten a bad rap. They fart, so therefore they're opening the ozone layer. And the red meat is horrible for people to consume, and on and on and on. They vilify this very beautiful animal that's providing such wonderfulness, not just for our health, but for society's health, for the world's health. And yet it's being portrayed as exactly the opposite.
Yeah, it's extremely sad. And even in my course, I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with sustainability, but I couldn't believe that we spent about 3 sessions going through all the different nutrients that you need, obviously, and then all the different places that you can get them, and in what amount of food that you need to eat in order to get each of those nutrients. And every single time it came up with something to do with beef. It was beef liver. It was some sort of liver, but it was usually beef that gave you the most. And I put my hand up and I said, because she finished the lecture saying, so in the end, what we can see is the best way to get your nutrients is from, a variety of plant foods and blah, 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 blah. And I said, but that's interesting because beef liver keeps coming up. What about beef liver? And she said, oh, well, look, the best way is always going to be fruit and vegetables. Move on. And it's very sad because, not only are people not understanding that it's terrible for the environment, having these horrible factories, but it's also we're so lacking in nutrients because of it. It's a shame, and people aren't willing to look outside their scope.
Well, and they talk about all the water it takes to produce a pound of ground beef and all the environmental sources, but they never talk about all the pesticides and herbicides and things they have to use to make plants happen, and all the dead animals that have to be sacrificed at the holy altar of your vegan diet. Like, they're all the time the ones that care about animals, and I care about animals, but animals have a purpose in this world, some of them to nourish us. And so, but they kill tons of animals at the holy grail of having their plant-based foods. Where is the irony? Nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're taking away their homes in order to create the factories, and it's just it's sad. And you know, I was going to say with regard to the pesticides and things that they use, what is amazing, and I think part of the reason behind people get so much success with autoimmune on when they go keto or carnivore is because literally it might even just come down to the fact that they're not eating so many pesticides all day
Yes,
long.
the GMO
Um, yeah,
and the GMOs is what I said.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. By eating a lot of animal foods and especially when you're eating high quality, you're just not getting those things that are covered on your food all day long. So I think that's a big part of it.
Big part of it. So let's get back to why I brought you on today, because you do have a sculpted body. You do a good job showing videos all the time, like I said, on your Instagram page, and you show it off from time to time. I love your new trend where you're just like, all right, it's another mirror selfie. Let's do it today. Hey, if you got it, you got it, Nikki. You show it off. You do it. You go, girl. But people, they don't really put the emphasis on the nutrition when it comes to shaping their body and getting it to have that right composition. They think it's all about gym work, which I've never seen you in a gym. You're outdoors on monkey bars, you're using benches, you're using body weight exercises. You don't usually do a lot of gym stuff. So that's one myth you're breaking, that you need a gym. You don't. Gym is helpful for some people, but you don't need it. But why do they neglect the nutrition component? Because we know keto, carnivore, some of the reasons why we've already talked about the muscle sparing effect. It's really effective for that. Why don't people put enough emphasis on the nutrition as the first thing rather than killing themselves physically?
I think because people put too much emphasis on thinking that you can eat what you want and then just burn it back off again. And
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because I am a massive advocate for exercise, as you know. But I also think if you look back even 80 years, people didn't go every morning and go for a run. I mean, exercise has become such a big thing these days where, you know, every person most days goes to the gym and does this big hard workout. But we've never really had to do organized exercise before. I mean, we'd run and chase an animal and then we might not do anything for a few more days. And I think the exercise that we
Yes.
do these days is to compensate for what we eat. And so what I like to achieve with my exercise is I love being able to do it anywhere. I love being able to just drop down and do it in my living room, doing it outside in the sun. And in fact, I will admit that I was going to the gym a lot more than I have been lately. And that's pushed because we've only just about to come out of lockdown. We've been in lockdown since pretty much June. So that was a bit pushed. But I think sometimes those things are great because it makes you think, okay, what can I do with what I've got? And really, I will say, guys, I have managed to gain a lot of muscle. I'm going to put a post up about it soon and just do a little comparison thing. But since lockdown started, for the last few months, just being able to go outdoors and do different workouts, I think I've been able to gain a lot more muscle and my body composition's changed again. So I don't, what I'm saying is that I've used one set of weights. I've got a 10 kilogram set of weights that I use. And other than that, I just use my body weight. And I think that's the most effective way to exercise. It's great.
And the fact that you're consistent with it, like every day I'm seeing a study or an exercise video from Nikki Crendal. And I know that's what I get. That's why I love following you, because I love the science and I'm trying to learn how to shift my own body composition. So seeing someone that knows what they're doing, it's fun. Seeing the proper form and then trying to mimic that. I'm not quite where you are, not even close, but I'll get there someday. So there's a lot of people, they just don't know where to start. Is a push-up like the basic starting point for people if they're trying to just get going with kind of a whole body approach? Or is it just like air squats? What would you recommend for somebody that's a total newbie, They don't know anything about exercise. They want to have body recomposition. They're eating keto or carnivore. What should they start with?